I'm Mitt Romney. I was a businessman for 25 years. Then I had the fun of getting the chance to help run the Olympic Winter Games in Salt Lake City next door. And then I had the fun also being governor of Massachusetts. I also solve problems, sometimes for a living, sometimes for other people to make things better. And I hope to be your president. Thank you.
Governor Romney, you have your own 59-point plan. In the last debate, Mr. Kaine suggested it was too complicated. Is simpler better?
Oftentimes simpler is better, and I know we're not supposed to ask each other questions, but if you permit, Herman, are you saying that the state sales tax will also go away?
No, that's an apple.
Okay.
We are replacing a bunch of oranges.
Okay. So then Governor Perry was right.
No, he wasn't. He was mixing apples and oranges.
Well, but will the people in Nevada not have to pay Nevada sales tax and in addition pay the 9% tax?
Governor Romney, you're doing the same thing that they're doing. You're mixing apples and oranges. You're going to pay the state. No. You're going to pay the state sales tax no matter what.
Right.
Whether you throw out the existing code and you put in our plan, you're still going to pay that. That's apples and oranges.
Fine.
Yes.
And I'm going to be getting a bushel basket that has apples and oranges in it because I'm going to pay both taxes.
No.
And the people in Nevada don't want to pay both taxes.
No.
Let me make this comment. Let's just step back here. We got a lot of people in America that are out of work. We got a lot of people in this state, 13.4% of the people in this state out of work. We got home prices going down. We got to talk about how to get America growing again, how to start adding jobs, raising incomes, and tax is part of it. I want to reduce taxes on our employers to make it easier to invest in America. I want to reduce taxes on middle-income families. I like your chutzpah on this, Herman, but I have to tell you, the analysis I did, person by person, return by return, is that middle-income people see higher taxes under your plan. If it's lower for the middle class, that's great, but that's not what I saw. I have to tell you, I want to get our burden down on our employers, on our people. I want to make sure our regulations work to encourage the private sector as opposed to put a damper on it. I want to get trade opening up new markets for America. I want to also find a way to get our energy resources, and they're all over the world, or all over this country, used for us. This is time to get America growing again, and that's what this campaign ought to be about.
Governor Romney, does Governor Perry have the answer?
Well, he's absolutely right about getting energy independence and taking advantage of our natural resources here. We're an energy-rich nation that's acting like an energy-poor nation. And that's something I've been talking about for some time, as the governor has. He's absolutely right. But there are also a lot of good jobs we need in manufacturing, and high-tech jobs, and good service jobs, technology of all kinds. America produces an economy that's very, very broad, and that's why our policy to get America the most attractive place in the world for investment and job growth encompasses more than just energy. It includes that, but also tax policy, regulatory policy, trade policy, education, training, and balancing the federal budget, and that starts with repealing Obamacare, which is a huge burden on this economy.
Governor Romney, 30 seconds.
You don't. You know, this, I think, is either our 8th or 9th debate, and each chance I've had to talk about Obamacare, I made it very clear, and also in my book. And at the time, by the way, I crafted the plan, and in the last campaign, I was asked, is this something that you would have the whole nation do? And I said, no. This is something that was crafted for Massachusetts. It would be wrong to adopt this as a nation.
That's not what
you're shaking your head. That happens. That happens
in your book that it should be for everybody.
Guys,
you took it out of your book.
You took it out of your book.
His turn, okay, and mine. Let me.
You're allowed, Governor.
I'll tell you what. Why don't you let me speak?
You're allowed to change. You're allowed to change.
Rick, you had your chance. Let me speak. Rick, you had your chance. Let me speak.
You're out of time. You're out of time.
He ate into your time.
I'm sorry, Rick. Rick, I'm sorry. I haven't had a chance to respond yet because you were interrupting the entire time I was trying to speak. So let me make it very clear.
Give it another 20 seconds.
And look, we'll let everybody take a look at the fact checks. I was interviewed by Dan Balls. I was in interviews in this debate stage with you 4 years ago. I was asked about the Massachusetts plan. Was it something I'd impose on the nation? And the answer is absolutely not. It was something crafted for a state. And I've said time and again, Obamacare is bad news. It's unconstitutional. It costs way too much money, $1 trillion, and if I'm president of the United States, I will repeal it for the American people. I'm sorry, Rick, that you find so much to dislike in my plan, but I'll tell you, the people of Massachusetts like it by about a 3-to-1 margin. And we dealt with a challenge that we had. A lot of people that were expecting government to pay their way. And we said, you know what? If people have the capacity to care for themselves and pay their own way, they should. Now, I can't tell you this. It's absolutely right that there's a lot that needs to be done, and I didn't get the job done in Massachusetts, and getting the health care costs down in this country is something I think we got to do at the national level. I intend to do that. But one thing's for sure, what Obama has done has to impose on the nation a plan that will not work, that must be repealed, and when it comes to knowledge about health care, and how to get our healthcare system working. I may not be a doctor like this one right over here, but I sure understand how to bring the cost of healthcare down and how to also make sure that we have a system that works for the American people.
Didn't do it. Charge. But your plan essentially is one more big government, bureaucratic, high-cost system, which candidly could not have been done by any other state, because no other state had a Medicaid program as lavish as yours, and no other state got as much money from the federal government under the Bush administration for this experiment. So there's a lot of big government behind Romney-care, not as much as Obamacare, but a heck of a lot more than your campaign is admitting.
Governor Romney? 30 seconds.
Actually, we got the idea of an individual mandate from you.
That's not true. You got it from the Heritage Foundation.
We got it from you and the Heritage. You got it from the Heritage Foundation and from you.
Wait a second. What you just said is not true. You did not get that from me. You got it from the Heritage Foundation.
And you've never supported.
I agree with them, but I'm just saying what you said to this audience just now plain wasn't true.
Let me ask, have you supported in the past an individual mandate?
I absolutely did with the Heritage Foundation against Hillary care.
You did support an individual mandate?
Sure.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm saying. We got the idea from you and the Heritage Foundation.
Okay, a little broader.
Okay.
I did.
All right. Number one.
He still has time. Sorry, he still has time.
Number two. Let me finish.
He still has time. Let him finish.
I get a little time here. Number two, we don't have a government insurance plan. What we do is rely on private insurers. And 93% of our people who are already insured, nothing changed. For the people who didn't have insurance, they get private insurance, not government insurance. And the best way to make markets work is for people to be able to buy their own products from private enterprises. What we did was right for our state, according to the people in our state. And the great thing about a state solution to a state issue is that people don't like it, they could change it. Now, there are a lot of things that I don't think I've ever hired an illegal in my life. And so I'm afraid, I'm looking forward to finding your facts on that, because that just doesn't...
I'll tell you what the facts are.
Rick, again.
You had them
Rick, I'm speaking.
The newspaper.
It's time
for you to tell the truth.
You get 30 seconds.
Time for you
this
to
is the way the rules work here, is that I get 60 seconds.
Well, no, but the American
and then you get 30 seconds to respond, right?
And they want to hear you say that you knew you had illegals
would you please wait?
Working.
Are you just going to keep talking?
Yes,
Or are you going to let me finish with what I have to say? Look, Rick...
I thought Republicans followed the rules.
This has been a tough couple of debates for Rick, and I understand that, and so you're going to get testy. But I'll tell you what. Let me take my time, and then you can take your time.
Great.
All right?
Have at it.
All right. My time is this, which is, I have in my state, when I was governor, I took the action of empowering our state police to enforce immigration laws. When you were governor, you said, I don't want to build a fence. You put in place a magnet. You talk about magnets. You put in place a magnet to draw illegals into the state, which was giving $100,000 of tuition credit to illegals that come into this country. And then you have states, the big states of illegal immigrants are California and Florida. Over the last 10 years, they've had no increase in illegal immigration. Texas has had 60% increase in illegal immigrants in Texas. If there's someone who has a record as governor with regards to illegal immigration that doesn't stand up to muster, it's you, not me.
I got 30 seconds, then we got to move on to another immigration question.
You had an op-ed in the newspaper saying you're open to amnesty. That's number one. Number two, we hired a lawn company to mow our lawn, and they had illegal immigrants that were working there. And when that was pointed out to us, we let them go. And we went to them and said, you have a problem with allowing someone to finish speaking. And I'd suggest that if you want to become president of the United States, you got to let both people speak. So first, let me speak. So we went to the company and we said, look, you can't have any illegals working on our property. I'm running for office, for Pete's sake. I can't have illegals. It turns out that once again they hired someone who had falsified their documents, had documents, and therefore we fired them. And let me tell you, it is hard in this country as an individual homeowner to know if people who are contractors working at your home, if they've hired people that are illegal. If I'm president, we'll put in place an e-verify system, which you've opposed, to make sure that we can find out who's here illegally and not, and crack down on people who come here illegally.
All right, we're going to stay on the topic.
I think it's important for us as Republicans on this stage to say something which hasn't been said, and that is, I think every single person here loves legal immigration. We respect people who come here illegally. And the reason we're so animated about stopping illegal immigration is there are 4.5 million people who want to come here or inline legally. We want that to happen in an orderly and legal process. And in terms of how to secure the border, it's really not that hard. You have a fence, you have enough Border Patrol agents to oversee the fence, and you turn off the magnets. And that's employers that hire people who they know are here illegally. That's why you have an E-Verify system, so they can know that. And number two, you turn off the magnets like tuition breaks or other breaks that draw people into this country illegally. It's not that hard. We have to get the political will to get the job done. And Governor Perry, you say you've got the experience. It's a bit like saying that, the college coach that's lost 40 games in a row has the experience to go to the NFL. But the truth is, California, I'll say it again, California and Florida have both had no increase in illegal immigration, and yours is up 60% over the last 10 years.
Governor Perry, 30.
My question for you is, do you support opening the National Nuclear Repository at Yucca Mountain?
Governor Romney, where do you stand on this?
Congressman Paul was right on that. I don't always agree with him, but I do on that. The idea that 49 states can tell Nevada we want to give you our nuclear waste doesn't make a lot of sense. I think the people of Nevada ought to have the final say as to whether they want that. And my guess is that for them to say yes to something like that, someone's going to have to offer them a pretty good deal, as opposed to having the federal government jam it down their throat. And by the way, if Nevada says, look, we don't want it, then let other states make bids and say, hey, look, we'll take it. Here's a geological site that we've evaluated. Here's the compensation we want for taking it. We want you electric companies around the country that are using nuclear fuel to compensate us a certain amount per kilowatt hour, a certain amount per ton of the stuff that comes. Let the free market work. And on that basis, the places that are geologically safe, according to science, and where the people say the deal's a good one, will decide where we put this stuff. That's the right course for America. There's an effort on the part of people in Washington to think somehow they know better than markets how to rebalance America's economy. And the idea of the federal government running around and saying, hey, we're gonna give you some money for trading in your old car, or we're gonna give you a few $1,000 for buying a new house, or we're going to keep banks from foreclosing if you can't make your payments. These kinds of actions on the part of government haven't worked. The right course is to let markets work. And in order to get markets to work and to help people, the best thing we can do is to get the economy going. And that's why the fundamental restructuring I've described is so essential to help homeowners and people across this country.
You originally called the protests dangerous. You said it was class warfare. You recently sounded more sympathetic. Where do you stand now? What is your message to those people protesting?
Well, we can spend our time talking about what happened 3 years ago and what the cause was of our collapse. But let's talk about what's happened over the last 3 years. We've had a president responsible for this economy for the last 3 years, and he's failed us. He's failed us in part because he has no idea how the private sector works or how to create jobs. On every single issue, he's made it harder for our economy to reboot. And as a result, we have 25 million Americans out of work, or stop looking for work, or part-time work and can't get full-time employed. Home values going down. You have median income in America that in the last 3 years has dropped by 10%. Americans are hurting across this country. And the president's out there campaigning. Why isn't he governing? He doesn't understand. He doesn't have a jobs plan even now. This is a critical time for America. And I can tell you that this is time to have someone who understands how the economy works, who can get America working again. Instead of dividing and blaming as this president is, let's grow America again and have jobs that are the envy of the world. And I know how to do it.
We got to take a quick break. Governor Romney, is that acceptable to you?
You know, with regards to the disparaging comments about my faith, I've heard worse, so I'm not going to lose sleep over that. What I actually found that was most troubling in what the Reverend said in the introduction was he said, in choosing our nominee, we should inspect his religion. And someone who is a good moral person is not someone who we should select. Instead, we should choose someone who subscribes to our religious belief. That idea that we should choose people based upon their religion for public office is what I find to be most troubling. Because the founders of this country went to great length to make sure, and they even put it in the Constitution, that we would not choose people who represent us in government based upon their religion. That this would be a nation that recognized and respected other faiths, where there's a plurality of faiths, where there was tolerance for other people and faiths. That's bedrock principle. And it was that principle, Governor, that I wanted you to be able to say, no, that's wrong. Reverend Jeffress, instead of saying, as you did by that introduction, knock the ball out of the park, I just said, Reverend Jeffress, you got that wrong. We should select people not based upon their faith, even though, and I don't suggest you distance yourself from your faith any more than I would, but the concept that we select people based on the church or the synagogue they go to, I think is a very dangerous and enormous departure from the principles of our Constitution.
Would you still like him to say that?
I'm sorry?
Would you still like the governor to say that, or was that something you wanted him to say?
I'll let him, it's his choice.
The American people are suffering in our country right now. Why do we continue to send foreign aid to other countries when we need all the help we can get for ourselves?
Should foreign aid be eliminated?
Foreign aid has several elements. One of those elements is defense, is to make sure that we are able to have the defense resources we want in certain places of the world. That probably ought to fall under the Department of Defense budget rather than a foreign aid budget. Part of it is humanitarian aid around the world. I happen to think it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to borrow money from the Chinese to go give to another country for humanitarian aid. We ought to get the Chinese to take care of the people that are taking that borrowed money today. And finally, there's a portion of our foreign aid that allows us to carry out our activities in the world, such as what's happening in Pakistan, where we're supplying our troops in Afghanistan through Pakistan. But let me tell you, we're spending more on foreign aid than we ought to be spending. And Congressman Paul asked, is there a place we can cut the budget? Let me tell you where we cut the budget. Discretionary accounts we bring back to 2008 level. We get rid of Obamacare. Number 3, we take Medicaid, turn it back to the states, grow it at only 1% to 2% per year. Number 4, we cut federal employment by at least 10% through attrition. And finally, we say to federal employees, you're not going to make more money than the people in the private sector who are paying for you. We link their compensation.
Time. Give you 30 seconds since he referenced you.
I think the people of America are looking for someone who can beat President Obama and can get the country on the right track. And I believe that they recognize that if we elect someone who spent their life in politics, that they're not going to be able to post up well against President Obama and convince the American people of the truth of the principles that we believe in. I believe that having spent my life in the private sector, having actually created jobs, is what allows me to have the kind of support that's going to allow me to replace President Obama and get the country on the right track again. That, for me, is a distinguishing feature that's going to get me elected as the President of the United States.
Governor Romney?
Yeah, with regards to track record, in the past, Governor, you were the chairman of Al Gore's campaign. All right, and there was a fellow Texan named George Bush running. So if we're looking at the past, I think we know where you were. Secondly, our unemployment rate, I got down to 4.7%. Pretty darn good. I think a lot of people would be happy to have 4.7%. And with regards to the record in Texas, you probably also ought to tell people that if you look over the last several years, 40%, almost half the jobs created in Texas were created for illegal aliens, illegal immigrants.
I got to give Governor Romney 30 seconds. He said he failed.
I'm very proud of the fact. Actually, during the 4 years we were both governors, my unemployment rate in Massachusetts was lower than your unemployment rate in Texas. That's number one. Number two, getting it down to 4.7, I'm pretty happy with. We worked very hard to balance our budget, did every year, put in place a rainy day fund of $2 billion by the time I was finished. And I'll tell you this, the American people would be happy for an individual who can lead the country, who's actually created jobs, not just watching them get created by others, but someone who knows how the economy works because he's been in it. I've created jobs. I'll use that skill to get America working again. That's what we want.
Romney, you got 30 seconds.
I appreciate that, and probably the fact that we're doing as well as we are is we both have a private sector background. That probably helps. But I just want to set the record straight of my record. I've been chief executive officer 4 times. Once for a startup and 3 times for turnarounds. One was a financial services company. That was a startup. A consulting company, that's a mainstream business. The Olympics, that's certainly mainstream. And of course, the state of Massachusetts. In all those settings, I've learned how to create jobs.